Wendy Brockman. Welcome to Denver Decides. Denver Decides is a community partnership dedicated to accessible and transparent elections. Our community partners include Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation, the League of Women Voters of Denver, Historic Denver, and is presented by Denver 8 TV. Today we are presenting a runoff candidate forum for the office of mayor for the city and county of Denver. Now, going into the May 7th election, 6 candidates were on the ballot vying to represent Denver as the clear mayor, but none of the 6 were able to garner a clear majority of votes cast. So now a runoff election will be held on Tuesday, June 4th. The top 2 vote getters will face off one more time, and they are here with us this evening. Please welcome Michael Hancock and Jamie Gillis.
Thank you.
Okay, we will begin with 1-minute opening statements, and they will go in the order that their names appear on the ballot. So, Michael Hancock, you are first. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Wendy. And let me thank Denver Decides and the League of Women Voters for once again putting on this very important forum that they have done for many, many years. This election is a very important one, and one in which, quite frankly, I relish the opportunity to have these very tough but yet important conversations in the life of our city. Denver has experienced tremendous growth and tremendous change over the last 10 years. We have been the most desirable city in the country for the last 10 years, but yet we sit in arguably the most economically vibrant city in the country. The opportunities before Denver is how we continue to address the challenges of growth, and position that we much prefer to be in than to address the challenges of a dying city. This is a great opportunity for Denver. The next term for me as mayor is really about how we reflect the opportunities around equity and balance, how we address the challenges around homelessness and housing and mobility, plans that we've already written in partnership with the people of Denver, how we address land use, and how we make sure that as we move forward that every Denverite has the opportunity to expand and to move into the new year of opportunity and equity. Thank you.
Jamie Ellis, you have 1 minute for an opening statement.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. On May 7th, 62% of Denver voters voted for an option other than our current leadership and sent a clear message that this community is ready for change. And tonight, what you're going to hear from Michael Hancock is that we should be afraid of a change in leadership. This isn't a moment to be afraid. This is a moment for opportunity. Denver's in a great place, but it's grown fast, and the people are struggling. And this campaign has been, since the beginning, about putting people first, about putting neighborhoods first, about putting all of our communities first. We all recognize the challenges, the fast pace of growth, the lack of transportation, our loss of green space, affordable housing challenges, and our growing homeless population. But we can work together, and when we do work together and build coalitions in community, we can bring creative and thoughtful solutions to the table.
All right, thank you very much. Now the first of our questions, and these have been submitted in advance by our community partners. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the question, and we're going to reverse the order from the opening statements. So Jamie, you will answer this question first. Here we go. Do you think expressing pride in being a sanctuary city is in the best interests of the city as a whole?
I think what is important and critical is that we support our immigrant community, that we recognize that immigrants provide a tremendous amount of value, that this country was founded on those principles, and that we have a responsibility as a city to ensure that they have opportunity, that we support them in their ability to grow businesses, to have lives, to feel protected and safe in our city. For me, that's the important piece. It's about the people, not scare tactics, about people, and making sure that everybody has equal and adequate opportunity here. And also about working with our communities to address the challenges that they face in becoming legalized residents here. The backlog in the system, the cost, the time it takes. We have an opportunity to continue to grow a thriving community here with the people that are already supporting it. So for me, it goes back to putting the people first and protecting and supporting those that live in our great community.
All right, thank you. Michael, you have 1 minute to answer the same question.
You know, while at Carson Elementary School last fall, I had an opportunity to talk to a third grader by the name of Carlos. Carlos, while he should be focused on getting ready for his classwork and getting ready for recess and lunchroom time, came to me and asked me to do everything I could to help protect his family. Unfortunately, we have too many of our immigrants who are living in the shadows and fearful every day that something's going to happen to rip their family apart. If being a welcoming and inclusive city, the values that we believe in Denver, Colorado, is what being a sanctuary city is all about, and by the way, it's never really been defined, then call us what you want. But at the end of the day, our values as a city is to be welcoming and inclusive, to help Carlos and his family feel safe and know that as long as they're in this city and want to do everything they can to be productive and contribute to the greatness of this city, we're going to do everything we can to protect them going forward.
All right, thank you. Now the next of our submitted questions, and this time, Michael, you will begin first. You'll have a minute. The citizens of Denver have spoken loud and clear on Initiative 300, and they are concerned about the homeless issue. What would you do immediately or in your first 100 days in office to address this issue from a root cause approach?
I'm glad you asked the question the way you did, Wendy, because that's exactly what we're trying to do. Unlike Jamie, we believe in being true to the word. Oppose I-300 and also keep the urban camping ban in place, because I don't think you can do both. 300 was about repealing the urban camping ban and took it a step further where we could not even approach those who may be homeless. What the public said, I think, clearly was, yes, we must be a compassionate city, do everything we can to lift our homeless out of their current situation, but we must have guardrails. And the guardrails say that we don't believe that it's safe, humane, or healthy for people to sleep outdoors. And so we will continue the strategies that we're taking, that it is a tailored, very complicated, multi-pronged approach to address the mental health, the drug and alcohol addiction, and to make sure that we start with a housing first model. That's what we're doing in Denver. That's why we've been able to see a steady number in terms of our homeless, but also see some decrease over the last 3 years in our last point in time surveys.
Thank you. Jamie, you have 1 minute to answer the same question.
With all due respect, we are not moving people to housing and services. The homeless challenge here has quadrupled, and we have more people dying on our streets than ever before. So when the mayor tries to throw out scare tactics, like I'm going to reverse I-300, which I was adamantly opposed to from the beginning, he fails to address the actual question here, which is we can use the urban camping ban to move people along, but we're moving them along to where? Where are they going? They continue to get pushed to other neighborhoods, to our river. If we want to tackle homelessness, it's about an investment in housing and services. We can do a lot with our shelter system, with tiny home villages, with opportunities that give people a place to go and be served, to have laundry, to have showers. While we work on longer-term programs, 23,000 vacant units in this city, working with developers, working with property owners on voucher programs and other opportunities
I have to
is
stop
where
you
we should
there,
be looking.
Jamie. All right, thank you. This is question number 3 of our submitted questions, and it is, the news media seem to focus on negative attacks and minor missteps by the candidates, instead of experience and vision in the runoff election for mayor. Please describe how you have advised your campaign staff in this regard. Jamie, you go first on this one.
Thank you. I came out right after the election and said we will not go negative in this race. And Mayor Hancock, in responding to the attacks that were placed on me just weeks before that showed up on the front page of the Denver Post, said, if you have to go negative, you shouldn't be in this race. And yet the first commercial rolled out by Team Hancock was a negative ad that was fact-checked and proved to be largely false, proved to have facts twisted. These tactics are taking voters away from the real conversation. And not to say some of the things that haven't brought up don't provide us an opportunity to talk about what's happening in our community, about talking about racial issues, gentrification, displacement. But let's use these opportunities to talk about positive hope and how we can fix this going forward, not continue to keep twisting these lies in hopes that voters get diverted from the real facts.
Thank you, Jamie. Michael, it is your turn.
You know, Jamie wrote that commercial that we aired. Those were her words. When the question was, she didn't say immigrants were criminal. What I clarified for them was, I grew up in a community as an African American. I know code words. I know trigger statements. She never said those words outside of a forum that was not directed toward the Republican Party. And so we know triggers. We know implicit bias, and we know what she was trying to say, or at least the message she was trying to get across at that Republican forum. So let me be clear. I said to my team, we don't need to go negative, but if we have facts, if she said these things, let it be her words. Let's use her words, and so we're not trying to attack her character. We're trying to put out there her words so that the public themselves can make their own decision with regards to whether or not what she is saying is real and how they feel about her words. So the reality is, she wrote this commercial with her words.
Jamie, it is your turn to respond.
Those words were taken out of context.
I'm sorry. This is round 4. We already answered that question. I apologize. All right. This brings us to the final question of our submitted questions for our candidates, and we will begin with Michael. Okay, we ready?
Gotcha.
City Council decides historic designation issues, but the mayor has a powerful voice and influence over these issues. What is the tone and point of view that you will convey on historic preservation as mayor?
It's the message that I have conveyed to City Council. This is an important tool for our city, that our history not get lost. And when we have structures that are important, that we need to make sure we prepare a solid case to protect that structure and protect the history of that structure. You know, cities are not only evolving, but they also are a manifestation of their past. And as I've worked with City Council, and by the way, I've sat on City Council for 8 years, where I've helped to vote on historic structures. It's amazing to listen to those stories and to understand what a building, what a house, what a park or a landmark has meant to a city, and how it feeds not only its past, but its future, and helps educate the current residents on how far we've come, where we've come from, and what really made us what we are today and brought us from where we've been. So this is a very important tool that cities have. And quite frankly, I think they're a tremendous asset to cities, and one in which I hope we continue to use very strategically and smartly to make sure that everyone understands our history.
Jamie, you're up.
Historic designations are a critically important tool to truly preserving our history and our past. And one of my big questions is regarding Larimer Square. Where was the mayor on that initial proposal? Looking at how we evolve our historic areas is critically important, but destroying them or taking them in a completely different direction is not okay, and leadership needs to stand up for that. But I also think this question goes to a bigger point about development and impact on the character and culture of Denver. The fast pace of development, the way zoning has allowed development to occur, maximize lot space, create buildings that people call Lego blocks here. We have an opportunity through our leadership in zoning to shape the character of how our city evolves in a way that 20, 30, 40 years from now, we look back and say, we were proud. This time tells a story about part of Denver's history. So I think that needs to be kept front of mind as well.
Thank you. Okay, guys, we survived the questions. First 4 questions, we got through them. The next round is going to be the candidates' turn to ask each other questions. You'll each will have 1 minute to respond. And we're going to return to ballot order, which means, Michael, you get to ask your question first.
You bet. Jamie, you sent out a mailing recently. I received it at my home. I'm sure many, many Denverites did. And you said you are a lifelong Democrat and would bring progressive values to Denver. But isn't it true that over the last 5 years, there were at least 2 occasions where you were no longer registered as a Democrat, you were registered as an unaffiliate? And most recently, this is the mailing that came out. And you're reading here, lifelong Democrat, values reflected through how I live and work. On the front, it says I'm a progressive leader. But yet recently, being interviewed by Joe St. George, he asked you directly, are you progressive? And you refused to address or to answer the question that you were progressive. So the question really is, if you cannot be truthful in your mailing about your registration as well as your values, how do the people of Denver, how do you affirm how people of Denver will trust your word when you say, here's who I am, here's what I believe as a mayor of the city?
Jamie, you have 1 minute to respond.
Thank you. First of all, I responded to Joe St. George, and I did it again today, that I'm a pragmatic leader with progressive values. There's no twisting there. Second of all, when we talk about our registration, there has been a forced effort by your campaign to push out information that I was somehow a Republican. I got married last summer. I changed my name in the process. One of the many things women have to go through when they get married. And in that process, there was an unintended blip. It was about a month. At any rate, I have demonstrated my leadership in this community. I've been at the table for conversations about our growth, for conversations about affordable housing, for conversations about homelessness, for conversations about how our neighborhoods are getting destroyed by that growth. And I know you know that because I've worked alongside the administration in that capacity. So it's another deflection of what we're really talking about here, which is how are we going to lead the city? How are we going to address the issues? And who's bringing new ideas to the table?
Now it is your turn to ask a question of Michael. You have 60 seconds to answer.
Okay.
So, Michael, it came out last night that the Great Hall project at DIA is $310 million over budget and won't be completed now until 2025. Overruns of this magnitude don't crop up overnight. My question to you is, what did you know? When did you know it? And why did you cover it up?
Yeah?
Yep.
So there wasn't a cover-up, and it's not a bill. It is not a firm number. In fact, what you have, Jamie, as I've explained to you, and if you had listened to the report last night, is the developer who has to put forward a reporting to their investors in terms of where the project and what they believe the project, the status of the project. The reality is that that's their side of the project. We have an analysis right now looking at the concrete issue in Denver. This airport was built in 1995. Good thing that we were doing this project to find that there were some challenges with regards to the concrete. We are now analyzing that issue right now. We don't know what the final cost will be. There are no cost overruns. These are forecasts by the developer, and we don't know how far it's delayed yet because these are forecasts by the developer. Until we're done with our analysis, we cannot really comment for sure. We share that with you, and by the way, it's not taxpayer money, as I shared with you this morning. This is an enterprise. No taxpayer money is used at the airport, ever used at the airport, because it would be a violation of state law.
Let's continue with these one-on-one questions for the candidates of mayor. Jamie, you are next to ask another question of Michael.
Oh, I get to go twice in a row? Okay. As was clear when 62% of Denver's residents voted against you, voters believe their quality of life has gone down over the last 8 years in regards to congestion, lack of transit, the return of the brown cloud, and declining air quality, reduced access to parks and green space, and the quadrupling of the number of homeless on our streets. Why should Denver voters trust that you are going to improve their quality of life going forward when you haven't yet?
You know, Jamie, I appreciate that question because a lot of the facts or things you just laid out are false. Our homelessness have not quadrupled. Our brown cloud has come and gone based on what's happening not only in the region but throughout the state of Colorado. We have become the most desirable city in the country, identified by many statistics that are national as well as throughout the state of Colorado. We've created more jobs in the last 8 years than we've seen in the last 2 decades in Denver. We've also brought more companies to Denver than we've seen in the last 5 decades in Denver, Colorado. This city is the most desirable, most attractive, and thriving city in the country because the people of Denver made very tough decisions at the voting box, which you chose not to do half the time of the years, half the number of years you've been here. You missed votes on 2 votes on personhood. You missed to vote on Udall versus Gardner. You didn't get to vote on or decided not to vote when Bennett was on the ballot. And so you pride yourself on being civically engaged, but yet you don't show up to be involved.
I'm going to stop you there for your time limit. I apologize.
You bet.
You do have a turn now to ask a question of Jamie.
Absolutely. Again, let's go to that question about being a lifelong Democrat. Lifelong Democrats vote. Again, you missed the Udall versus Gardner vote. Twice you didn't vote when personhood was on the ballot. You didn't vote when Michael Bennett was on the ballot. These are critical elections in the city, in the life of the city and the state. But yet you chose not to exercise the most dynamic and important act of democracy. People have died for the right to vote. Women, this year we're celebrating a major milestone for women getting the right to vote. But you blow it off by saying, my bad. Why did you not find it important, if you were civically involved, to vote on elections here in Denver?
I never blew it off to say my bad. In fact, when that information was released, I owned it. And that's what you do. Part of this is also looking at the fact that there is no requirement in our charter that says you have to vote in X many elections. You missed an election. Lisa Calderon, Penfield Tate. We all missed elections when they looked at our records. The point is what the work is that I've been doing and the expertise I'm bringing to a job. This is the biggest job interview of anybody's life. And in a significant chunk of the time that I've been working in Denver, I've been working in our neighborhoods, and I've also been working and learning from cities abroad, having the opportunity to work for governments in Singapore and the UK and across the country. And they brought me there, as did many Denver neighborhoods, because of my knowledge and expertise of how you fix growth, how you get affordable housing built, how you address the actual challenges happening on the ground.
Time is up. Michael, you may ask another question.
Thank you. Jamie, the development of Comp Plan 2040 and Blueprint Denver and Game Plan, which was just adopted last night or on Tuesday by City Council, are extremely important pieces of documents charting the future of Denver, Colorado, and how we respond to managing growth, a lot of what you talk about. What did you do personally to engage in the conversations, the over 200 conversations that took place in the city of Denver in the development of Comp Plan 2040 and Blueprint Denver?
I participated in the public meetings, and I provided input through the organizations that I was working with. And I also have been vocally a part of the conversation since it was brought forth last fall to talk about, look through, work with our neighborhood organizations, including INC, on what impact this would have on the city. It's a faulty approach to pass a plan when you haven't had a sitting planning director for nearly a year. We just planned ahead for our next 20 years and did it without clearly thinking through what the consequences of density all over the city and density by rezoning will do. Our neighborhoods are scared. They're scared of the onslaught of development that is likely to come because of what they've seen happen under this administration the last 8 years. So again, I'm here representing the voices of the community and the people. It's great to sit there and talk about great policy and plans.
I'm going to stop you there.
What's the actual impact on the neighborhoods?
I have to stop you there. But Jamie, you now can ask a question of Michael.
All right. Denver news agencies have noted that approximately $1.5 million of settlement fees have accrued due to sexual harassment at the city. Will you commit to paying back taxpayer dollars?
None of those settlements involve me directly. I was never sued for sexual harassment. There's never been a claim filed against me in sexual harassment. And so as you have been given information more than once, that number you're using, no one can find in the city of Denver $1.5 million in settlements. And so when you say pay back, you want me to pay back $1.5 million of settlements that did not include me directly. That is a false statement. It's a false position for you to take, and it's inappropriate. It's actually irresponsible for you to go in that direction. And so I'm sorry you felt the impulse to continue to drive that narrative, but it's wrong. And let me just be very clear with regards to Comp Plan 2040 and all the plans that you did not show up for. We have no record of you showing up to engage in any of the meetings, and there were copious attendance in terms of registry for people who walk in that. And let me be clear about Brad Buchanan, who left with only 6 months left for a term, at least an election. You're not going to attract a world-class planner. So that's why we held it off until the election.
Now the last round of our one-on-one questions, and Jamie, you get to ask a question.
All right. The Trust for Public Land just dropped Denver's park system from 11th to 29th place, ranked on quality of access. Mayor, you know that parks and green space are critical to our quality of life. With Denver growing so quickly, why didn't you increase our parks' quality and access and acreage during your 8 years in office?
Actually, we did. So the first step that we took was to protect our open space as parkland. And we first moved in to make sure that the open space was certified as park space so that it could never be changed again. And we did go in and protect and designate 1,100, almost 1,200 acres of land. We also added 650 acres of new parkland to our inventory. While Denver is growing, I also ordered the Parks and Recreation to engage the Trust for Public Land to do an assessment of Denver's parkland and what we need to do to begin the process of stabilizing but also growing our parkland. That report was the result. What resulted from that report was the initiative that was before the voters this past November, where voters overwhelmingly approved the sales tax that will allow us to now continue our expansion efforts around Parkland and the city of Denver, but also maintaining them. And so we just wrote out the first set of those plans. I'm excited about it, but I'm also excited about the fact that the same report you referred to shows we've increased the number of residents that are within 10-minute walk of a park. We're now over 90%. We're almost at our goal.
Thank you. This is our last question of the night, and Michael, you will be asking it.
Just this morning, Jamie, you said that you were asked a question at a debate about the urban camping ban and your desire to repeal the urban camping ban. The question for you was, what would you replace it with if you repealed it? And you stood before that audience and said, I don't know what I would replace it with. How and why would you repeal a bill or a piece of law and you don't know what you would replace it with? It seems like political rhetoric to me. Can you answer the question?
Absolutely. I've talked very clearly about the fact that the first step to this is you can have an urban camping ban where we sweep people along all day long. But if we're sweeping them to nowhere, we don't have opportunity for them, then is it really a solution? The population grows and we just move them around the city. The issue with the urban camping ban, and again, I was opposed to I-300. And I-300 was not solely a repeal of the urban camping ban. It would have tied our hands on a lot of other issues, bad policy. The urban camping ban, we just settled a class action federal lawsuit over it, stemming from the December 2016 event where blankets were taken from homeless people on a cold December night. The camping ban language, which the mayor earlier today said I needed to get a better understanding of, talks specifically about taking people's possessions. Nobody wants people camping all over the city. We want them in housing. But we can't continue to criminalize them and think that spending millions and millions more each year is an actual solution. I'm asking for solutions, housing,
Time is up,
and
Jamie.
helping people.
We have come to the end of our one-on-one questions. Each candidate will now have 90 seconds for a closing statement. And we're going to do reverse order of the opening statements, which means, Jamie, you have a minute and a half for a closing statement.
Thank you. This has been an incredible election. There's no doubt about it. This is a really important time for Denver. It's why I got in the race, because I thought we needed to ensure that we had a real conversation about our city's future. And let's not forget or lose sight of the fact that that's what this election is about. It has become, in the last few weeks, about petty politics. And it's embarrassing, frankly. Denver deserves better than that. And that's what I hear from the people on the street walking around in this community. We have seen our quality of life decline. People are struggling to pay their bills. Our property taxes just went up 20, 30, 40% again. We have no transportation. We have billions of dollars worth of projects tied up in controversy right now. So let's refocus on our growth, on our development, on taking pride in our city, and what the people of this city and the neighborhoods deserve, which is the quality of life that they have had, that they want to be better. Let's make sure that this race doesn't become about petty politics, about nonsense. Let's talk about the issues and the kind of leader that you need to make things happen. Mayor Hancock has had 8 years in the mayor's office, 8 on city council. It's time for a fresh voice. It's time for a new approach to our challenges. My name is Jamie Gillis. I would be honored to have your vote on June 7th.
And now
June 4th.
a closing statement. And now a closing statement from Michael. You have 90 seconds.
Denver, it's been an absolute great honor to serve as your mayor. And as I started tonight, we talk about a growing city. I'd much rather, as mayor of this city, manage the challenges of growth versus managing the challenges of a dying city. We are anything but a dying city. We're a desirable city. We have worked hard. We've made the tough decisions. And over the last 8 years, we pulled this city out of the grips of the Great Recession, and we've moved this city to the greatest heights around the world. People recognize Denver. They acknowledge Denver. They emulate Denver. And that's something that we all can take pride in and be proud of right now. Now we have our challenges. A growing city has its challenges. Housing, homelessness, mobility, and yes, questions about what our future looks like. But only us, the people of Denver, have the ability to define what that looks like for us. It's not a developer who invests heavily in one candidate, hand selects that candidate, and then will direct that candidate. It is not someone who doesn't respect the different neighborhoods and demographics and people who call this city home and recognizes that we must elevate the diversity of this city if we're going to continue our greatness. I have been proud to be your mayor, to walk in your living rooms, in your synagogues, your mosques, your churches, and your parishes. When there have been tough decisions, when there have been tough moments, together we said we're going to get through it. Together we've cried. Together we've celebrated our victories. I'm Michael Hancock. I've been proud to be your mayor, and I'll be proud to continue to be your mayor for the next 4 years.
That wraps our runoff forum for the candidates vying to become the next mayor of the city and county of Denver. So now let's thank them, Michael Hancock and Jamie Gillis. You guys got 2 claps in there. Our thanks to the Denver Decides partners as well, which include Interneighborhood Cooperation, the League of Women Voters of Denver, and Historic Denver. Denver Decides is presented by Denver 8 TV. Also, we want to extend our thanks to the staff and management of the Denver Art Museum and Christy Bassiner, the Director of Communications and Public Affairs, for providing this location for our runoff elections. We hope we've given you a fair look at each candidate vying to be the next mayor of Denver. So be sure you have voted and returned your ballot by 7 p.m. on Tuesday, June 4th. For complete election information online, you can go to denverdecides.org. I'm Wendy Brockman. Thanks, everyone, for joining us.
Thanks.